This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Single man, single man, fight. Challenging the fighters who are fighting up the challenge. 20x6. All over the universe, the victory is later. Number one, a goldus. There is no time for kidding. Only the challenge of fight.
I will fight a brick wall.
Braver to being the guy.
It ain't about the money, Spider-Man. It's about the swagger.
Having been shown to be a nigga of impeccable character, I do hereby announce that Riley Freeman is officially part of the Lethal Interjection crew. All the hate and envy that I've collected with this chain over the years will now transfer to you. Now just remember what you represent when you have it on and be proud of it. There isn't a single member of the Lethal Interjection crew that isn't ready to die for his chain, nigga.
No, not me.
Well,
No thanks.
except for Leonard. But he's bitch made. Your chain, my nigga. Your chain.
Yeah.
I done came up, got my name up. So when they speak of who blinged up, I'm who they bring up. Come up dissing and you'll come up missing. I'm a cutthroat baller like O.J. Simpson. Little homie, listen, try and serve me. I put a 25 in your back like Barry Bonds jersey. On the streets, on the beach, y'all ain't able. Cause two of this shit on rappers like major labels. What's with the ice grilling, homie? You change your face. Cause he done do more than tan you to change your race. Girls love metaphor, and I love them back. Addicted to getting head, chicks call me the brainiac. Battle rap with words war like jihad. I write dope, flow crack, my notepad need rehab. Off y'all CDs, y'all can't see these or touch these. Rhyme so chronic, my songs give you the munchies.
Well, here we are with the
Now do you care?
Won't you tell them what your name is? That's corrupt. Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Won't you tell them what your name is? That's corrupt. Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Won't you tell them what your name is? That's corrupt. Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Won't you tell them what your name is? That's corrupt.
grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s. I never heard a gunshot.
Dead people.
Now, but after Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, this is a bonanza, and there's a lot to be done. And so now you will follow policies that are the opposite of what you advocated. You will see that with all kinds of other insurgent movements.
Somewhere, watching this interview, there's a young Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life.
Condescending.
It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the racist industry. Stay away from the what advice race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
You go to hell.
All right. Let me ask you something. If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule?
You could have the money, Anton.
This year's election season is set to be the most expensive ever, with some estimates topping $10 billion. Three groups will each spend about $1 billion on behalf of a presidential nominee. The first two are who you'd expect, Democrats and Republicans, the country's dominant political parties. But the third group is not a political party and does not have a single candidate running for office. Instead, it's a network of right-wing advocacy groups backed by the billionaire energy tycoons Charles and David Koch. According to its own estimates, the Koch network aims to spend nearly $900 million in the 2016 presidential and congressional races, more than doubling its amount in 2012. The Koch's political machine now eclipses the official Republican Party in key areas, with about 3.5 times as many employees as the Republican National Committee. Charles and David Koch's 2016 spending comes as part of an effort to funnel hundreds of millions of dollars to conservative candidates and causes over the last 4 decades. Their net worth is a combined $82 billion, placing them 5th on the Forbes 400 list of wealthiest Americans. The Kochs... To go back to the beginning of your book, you start the book with the inauguration of President Obama in January of 2009 and all the attention and the enthusiasm that generated across the world and in the United States. But then you also say that very month there was a secret meeting that was convened by the Kochs of billionaires and multimillionaires with a completely different agenda. If you could talk about that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked, because the book is not just about the Kochs, and the Kochs on their own probably would not be able to have the kind of influence they have. But what they've done is kind of a magic trick. They've attracted around them, they've purposely built what they call an unprecedented network. It's a pipeline, they talk about it too, where they've gathered gathered about 400 other extraordinarily wealthy conservatives with them to create a kind of a billionaire caucus almost. And that's the group that met. Just as Obama was being inaugurated, soon after that, they met to figure out how can we obstruct this. They regarded it as a catastrophe that Obama had been elected, and they wanted to see if they could stop change from taking place in the country and keep the order the way it had been for them during the Bush years, and maybe even push it further to the right. So this is not, it's an organization that I think people need to understand is not just about elections. They've been playing a long game that started 40 years ago when Charles Koch really got involved in politics in the beginning. And they wanted to change not just who rules the country, but how the country thinks. They're very anti-government. They are, and they have pushed this kind of anti-government line for 40 years through many different channels, and it's kind of a war of ideas as much as anything else.
Well, you also talk about the secrecy with which they operate. You quote Fred Koch, the family patriarch, as saying, "The whale that spouts is the one that gets harpooned."
Yes, and I've talked to many operatives who've worked with the Kochs or are interviewed in this book, and one of them told me they're not just under the radar, they are underground. And they for many years just were almost invisible. The Kochs themselves used to call Koch Industries the biggest company that you've never heard of. It's the second largest private company in America. It has $115 billion of business a year, and most people didn't know what it was. Many Americans use their products. They don't realize Dixie cups, Stainmaster carpet, Lycra, Georgia Pacific lumber, there's quilted northern toilet paper. There's so many products that they've flooded the American market with, yet most people don't realize that that is coming from these two brothers who own most of the company and are pouring the money into far right-wing politics.
We're going to keep talking about this with Jane Mayer, staff writer for The New Yorker, author of the new book, Dark Money, The Hidden History of the Billionaires Behind the Rise of the Radical Right. Stay with us.